Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Graduate School of Architecture Introduction Open House for the Postgraduate Diploma in Architectural Management. Thanks very much for finding the time to join us. I hope you can all hear me. If you could just give me a thumbs up or just acknowledge if you can hear me okay. And I can continue. Lovely. Great. So welcome. This evening we're here to give you an overview of, firstly, the Graduate School of Architecture, a little bit about us and our approach to making architecture and educating architects. And then I'm going to talk you through, in some detail, the form and the structure of the postgraduate diploma that we're planning to launch next year, next February. And then there'll be the opportunity for you to ask any questions or to inquire, or if you've got any comments that you'd like to share with us about the program, we'd be more than happy to entertain them and to respond to them. But first of all, just to introduce myself, my name is Mark Raymond, and I am the Director of the Graduate School of Architecture here at the University of Johannesburg. I'm not from South Africa, I'm from Trinidad in the Caribbean, and I've combined my career in teaching and in practice. I've had many years, over 30 years in professional practice. I studied architecture in the UK and then returned to Trinidad, where I practiced as an architect on my own account for many years, built many buildings and was involved with professional institutions. I was the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Institute of Architects for 2 terms, and I chaired the Association of Commonwealth Societies of Architects in the Caribbean for over 10 years. I've served on the councils of the Commonwealth Association of Architects, the Caribbean Federation of the Association of Architects, and I've been involved with academic validation globally with over 20 validation visits. And now I'm the director of this wonderful school. And the program that we're going to share with you today is one of a number of programs that we offer at the school. I'm going to share a presentation with you. The Postgraduate Diploma in Architectural Management is a new qualification. It's a qualification that has been in development for a couple of years. We've had a little bit of a false start with it because of COVID, but we're really enthusiastic and committed to running the program next year. We think it's a really important and significant program, and we're grateful for your interest in it. It's a program that is accommodated in the Graduate School of Architecture, which is the postgraduate program in architecture at the University of Johannesburg. The Graduate School of Architecture is part of the Faculty of Art, Design and Architecture. And in the Faculty of Art, Design and Architecture, there is the Department of Architecture and the Graduate School of Architecture. The Department of Architecture runs the undergraduate programs up to the bachelor's level, and we run a range of programs that are all postgraduate programs. And we are part of the University of Johannesburg, which, as you know, is one of the largest, if not the largest university in the country, with over 50,000 students here in Johannesburg. We think that the location of the school is really important. Johannesburg is the commercial center. It's a hive of economic commercial activity. It has a significant population and a significant history. And architecture has had a very significant role to play in that history. And that history is an architectural history. It's also social, political, economic history. It's a history that can't be divorced from the many layered political and social contexts in which architecture locates itself. This is an interesting map, like an idea map, and it comes from the 1990s, where a number of architects, artists, photographers, critics, writers, a range of different interested people prepared essays that were published in a book called Architecture, Apartheid and After. And they tried to constellate or organize the thinking, the ideas they had about architecture in relation to themes that were predominant themes that existed in South Africa. So you can see that we have here a range of practitioners, all practicing in the scope, within the sphere of architecture, but in very, very different ways. And I think this speaks very much to the way at the Graduate School of Architecture we look at architecture as being very much part of the process of transformation that is taking place in South Africa. And that practice can be understood to have quite a wide variety of meanings and values. Yes, there's the traditional form of practice in terms of the professional architect, registered with SACAP, working with as a member of the South African Institute of Architects or one of the provincial chapters of the SAIA, but also practice in a much larger way, practice that extends into understanding the history, understanding the theory, and in the case of what we're trying to do with the postgraduate diploma, to understand in more detail the management of architecture. So it's important that we understand that architecture exists within a much bigger scheme of ideas, trends, and histories. And I think that's something that underpins all the work we do. And it can be summed up in this term that was coined by one of the leading figures in the establishment of the GSA, the idea of transformative pedagogy. And what we mean by that, well, transformative, something, a way or a means of transforming politics, society, economics, the way we live, transforming it from how it was to how we would like it to be, how we think it should be. And the pedagogy is about how we teach that, how the teaching and learning of transformation takes place within our institution. It's a very important idea in this school. And we're also really concerned about how that transformative pedagogy, how that transformative way of teaching manifests itself in different practices. So we don't see architecture and we don't see practice as being one monolithic thing or book in which all the knowledge about architecture is written and you just memorize the chapters and then you have accomplished comprehensive knowledge in that discipline, but there's something that's really very dynamic and that's changing all the time. Our school is primarily based around what we call the Unit System Africa. And this year we have 9 units running in the main school. We're operating the professional 2-year program, that's the Bachelor Honours, and the Masters, it's a 2-year joint program that in the first instance in the Honours leads students to SACAP Senior Architectural Technologist level, and at the Masters level to the Candidate Architect level. It's a comprehensive program and we run units, so those are different groups of tutors and unit leaders who develop a theme for the year that the students then follow through in the course of their work. And you can see there images of our staff, and I think that really accurately represents the diversity of approach that we have here. We want to have full representation both in the student body as well as in the teaching body of the population. We think there should be a kind of demographic parity in terms of the people who are teaching as well as the content of what we teach, reflecting this commitment to the idea of true transformation, not just talking about it, but actually doing it and trying to figure out how the teaching that we do in that sphere actually translates and becomes a transformative practice. We run events throughout the year that are open to all students and all staff and that are also public. Anybody can come to our lectures. And we invite architects from all over the world, many of them from South Africa. See here Thiresh Govender, who's an architect practice in Johannesburg, has a phenomenal urban design and architectural practice, working through a very much transformative lens. Wolf architects from Cape Town, Ilse Wolf and Heinrich Wolf, the very critical practice. And then on the right, Cave Bureau, Stella Mutegi and Kabaki Karanya, who also have a fascinating critical practice. They're all people who've been invited to our school to talk about their work and the way they work, how they practice. Ilse and Thiresh also developed advanced design research studios last year, where they developed some of their thinking and shared some of that thinking through workshops. And also last year, we began a really interesting series of lectures, professional practice lecture series, where we invited architects not to come and simply talk about the projects that they had done, which tends to be what architects very often do when they're invited to lectures. We were keen to see some of the work that they were doing, but we wanted them to talk about how they worked, how they produced the work that they produced. How did they get there? How did they study? Where did they study? How did they move from being students or from working in practices to developing their own practices? What was the story behind their practice? How did they get where they were? It was a fascinating series of lectures, so we've continued it this year. And in fact, yesterday, or was it the day before yesterday, we had Isabelle Jolicoeur, who's an architect from Haiti in the Caribbean, talking about her practice. She's a very young architect. She's from the island of Haiti, or Hispaniola, where Haiti is located, and she practices with another young architect, Christine Lerac, with a practice called Atypique. And she spoke about how they formed their practice and the work that they did. We had one of our tutors from the GSA who also has a practice, Dixon Aduajay, and also Kolisi Makubo. And next week we will be having Tanzim Razak and Althea Peacock talk about their practice. And I encourage you all to sign up for these lectures. They're online, they're free, and they'll give you a really interesting insight into some really very exciting practitioners. You can see there, if you RSVP to GSA events at uj.ac.za, you'll be given all the details to be able to plug in and tune in and hear these very interesting practices talk about their work. Following Lemon Pebble, we will have Kate Otten, and then a really fascinating practice from Jamaica run by Vidal Dowding. So we have a commitment to trying to understand practice, not just in its orthodox form, not just in the way that we maybe have come to accept or understand how it is supposed to exist, but to actually invite practitioners in to talk about how they actually practice. What do they actually do? How do they get the jobs that they do? How do they manage them? How do they run them? What motivates them? We think that interrogating practice through these lenses gives us a much more authentic and insightful way of comprehending how architecture works and how it operates. And it's the work that we feel we need to be doing as a school. It's work that we feel uncovers new knowledge about practice, about new ways of doing things. So we don't have a straightforward, orthodox or regular way of approaching the work we do. We are innovative in terms of the people we invite to the school, how we approach teaching and learning, how we engage with students, and how we try to engage with the new knowledge that emerges from these encounters as a way of understanding how the profession, how our understanding of architecture can be transformed, how it can change, how architecture can more sensitively and responsively react to the realities of the social, economic and political condition of South Africa and the African diaspora. So we're committed to those ideas, and we try to ensure that that thinking permeates all of the work we do. This is an organizational chart. You can see there I am, the director of the school, and I currently report to the dean of the faculty, Desiree Small, who's actually a fashion designer, PhD in fashion. We have 4 different sort of what we call programs: making, professional practice, architectural history and theory, and advanced design research. That middle block are the units that are teaching the professional program. And on the right-hand side, we have comprehensive support staff that we refer to as OPS. That's our administration, headed by Denise Fouché. And she leads a team of Leslie Ince Garcia, Adeshnee Reddy, Guatemala Mazubuco, Garicile Mahlangu, and Jonathan Battis, who help keep the organizational, operational side of the school going. And we also are supported by Fred Swart and Zahir Kasim, who do our audio-visual work. So we have a really good team. The school is growing. It was started in 2016, so this is our 7th year, but we are growing, we're getting bigger. And as part of that growth is the increase in the programs that we offer. So the first and the primary qualifications that we've established, the school's been established around, is what we call the Joint Professional Program, which is the Bachelor of Architecture Honours, which leads to the Masters of Architecture, and that is a SACAP accredited professional program. So the BArch Honours leads to the Senior Architectural Technologist, SACAP level, and the MArch leads to the Candidate Architect level. We also have a master's in what we call Design Theory Practice, and this master's is a master's that is not professional. It doesn't lead to a professional qualification. It's for those who want to study in more detail specific aspects in a more traditionally academic way about architecture, but that allows them to use design within that. So it's not just textual, they can develop projects to develop their understanding. We offer PhD, we're hoping to develop a practice-based version of the PhD. And then of course the qualification that you're all here to look at today, the Postgraduate Diploma in Architectural Management. So this is our 4th program in our school. The Postgraduate Diploma in Architectural Management is an NQF Level 8 qualification, and it comprises 120 credits. The program is offered over 2 years, and it is part-time, and it is offered through distance learning. So it's all online, which we think helps or will help practitioners or people who are actually working full-time. They're able to pursue this course. It does take time. It will take time, of course, but the course is delivered online. We're looking at the possibility of having maybe once a year or twice a year a kind of in-person session. So those who are able to come or are already in Johannesburg might meet for a week for a kind of contact session. But the program is all delivered online over 2 years. Coming back to what I was saying about the idea of the traditional role of the architect as being male and responsible for producing designs that are then built is an interesting idea, but one that doesn't really exist anymore. Architecture has become really very, very complex and very complicated in many ways, and is not about the gentleman architect anymore. It's about teams of people often working under pressure with complicated technology, complicated systems of building, sometimes complicated systems of procurement, sometimes complicated contracts, often in extreme conditions or difficult circumstances, and requires highly specialized types of knowledge. Architecture itself is still fundamentally discipline grounded or founded in design, but as diversified in terms of the threads or the streams of knowledge that emerge from that. And the Postgraduate Diploma in Architectural Management explores the idea of specifically architectural management. So it's not about design, it's about how architecture is managed, how the processes of architecture are managed, and requires a range of skills to be able to deploy effectively. And to explain that a little more, we look at or think about architecture as a sort of discipline, as a sort of sphere of human endeavor. On the one hand, we have education informing that, informing the discipline. There is education in architecture, education and training. And then there's also the regulation of architecture. So the practice of architecture requires education. It requires formation of the people who participate or work within it. And it's also something that's regulated by society. There are rules around the practice of architecture. So this combination of an education and the regulation, we believe, leads to this idea of practice. So architecture is sort of triangulated by these 3 regimes of education, regulation, and practice. And in our program, in the Postgraduate Diploma, what we try to do is we try to offer a kind of an overview of how architecture is practiced and how that practice is managed, how the processes, practices, and activities of architecture are managed. So the 120 credits are broken down into the first module, or primary module, which is Architectural Practice Management, which is an introduction to all of the ideas about practice management, all the different spheres and components of practice management, whether they are the management of design, how the process of design itself is managed. So when a project appears, in an office or with an individual. The design of that project has a process that is a design process, but requires management. It requires integration of other disciplines, engineering, landscape architecture, acoustics, many other different disciplines, the economic management of a project. All of these are incorporated into the management of the practice, as well as the management of the people in the practice, the management of the software, management of the facilities that are required for the production of architecture. And then we have project management, another critical component. Architectural project management is distinct from engineering project management or infrastructural project management, or perhaps rely on, in a way, a generic kind of threshold or chassis of project management, but that has very specific and particular applications when applied to architecture. So the architectural project management module looks at, on the one hand, generic structure of project management, how traditionally anything might be managed, from the idea of having a concept, developing that concept into a clear idea, breaking that idea down into its different components in order for it to be implemented, monitoring and managing the enactment, the implementation of those different components to the final outcome of the project. These are the generic ways of understanding. This is the generic way of understanding project management. And of course, it has very nuanced meanings when it's applied to architecture, with its specialized regulatory regime, the involvement of humans, of people in the process, or actually in the occupation of the outcome. So it's not a water. Architects don't design sort of water infrastructure or road infrastructure. They design spaces for people to live in, and that has its own, or people to occupy, and that has its own requirements and nuances. So architectural project management looks very specifically at how project management is conducted, how it's enacted in relation to the processes and procedures around the production of architecture itself. And I'm sure many of you who are involved actively in architecture will be aware that that process is mediated and regulated and held through contracts. Now, those might be contracts between a client and an architect. They might be contracts between the client and the specialist consultants involved in a project. There might be the contracts between a project manager and the architect. There's a whole host of different types of contracts. Then there's the contract between the contractor and the client Then we have arrangements between the architect or the project manager and the contractor. There are multiple different contractual arrangements, right down to the contract that the client or the contractor might have with subcontractors. So architectural contracts looks at all of those different forms of contract and provides us insight and knowledge and understanding about the form, the legal structure of those contracts, what an architectural contract is, and gives examples of how those contracts are deployed, how they're used, what might go wrong with contracts, what are the remedies when things go wrong with contracts, what are the ramifications and legal implications of contracts when things go wrong, how do those contracts relate to payment. So architectural contracts explores how contracting, how the legal aspects that bind the different parties who are involved with architectural production are held and managed. Then we have knowledge management and building information modeling. Architects and the process of the production of architecture requires the consolidation of huge amounts of information, whether they are specifications, whether they are libraries of information that are held within an architectural practice or a design practice or a contracting practice, whether it's knowledge about design that's held in literature or that's held in the precedents of previous projects. Knowledge management can also be knowledge about contemporary practices, can be about contemporary understandings, let's say, of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how that operates within practice. And then building information modeling, BIM, which I'm sure you'll all be familiar with, is another dimension of practice through which very specific types of information can be held within a building information model. kind of virtual repository of information about a specific product or project. And then we're also interested in how architectural projects are developed through or within the context of property development, and how the financial side of property development works, property finance. It's areas of knowledge that exist more in the realm of economics, more in the realm of planning, more in the realm of finance. But it's important for architects to understand these domains in order for them to be able to fully understand how processes can be managed within those domains in and towards the production of architecture. So those are the the five primary components. The last two are electives: architectural practice management, architectural project management, and architectural contracts can be looked at in a way as the sort of the contents and the context and the practice of architecture, how it's managed, how buildings are built, and how the arrangements around those processes are held through legal contracts. And then the electives allow us to explore the new technology that drives how that process takes place and how the knowledge around that is managed. And also helps through the property development and property finance elective, helps us understand how those processes are implemented, how they're financed, how they're motivated for through the different machineries and mechanisms, whether in the private sector or whether in the public sector. So through these five modules, we hope to provide a really comprehensive understanding about how the management of architecture takes place, how we manage the process of architecture, how the idea of a design can be translated into something real, into something manifest. What's the role of the architect within that? What's the role of management within that? And it's an approach, we use the term architecture, but it can be easily applied to landscape architects or to interior designers or any other number of design disciplines that follow similar processes or that engage or work within the sphere of the built environment. So we hope that the postgraduate diploma will provide students who maybe have an undergraduate degree or maybe have an advanced diploma, but who want to understand more or to develop their knowledge further in the management of architecture. We're hoping also that this PG diploma also develops into kind of SACAP course, leading architects to their professional qualification. Once they're candidate architects, they might want to pursue this. And it also can function as a kind of access for people who have an undergraduate degree, a bachelor's degree, or an advanced diploma, who want to advance their studies through a research degree, want to do more detailed master's level research into various aspects of practice, or possibly go on to a PhD into the dimensions of practice management, project management, and contracts that are proposed and promoted within the content of the five modules. As I said, it's an NQF level 8 qualification, the 120 credits. It's delivered online, remotely, it's distance learning, it's over 2 years. It's divided into those 5 modules. Each module will have a head, somebody that runs that module, that drives that module. Project outputs will be probably in the form of case studies, special projects, group projects, to make it interesting, to encourage engagement. We're also hopeful that we are going to be able to attract an international body of students on this program. So it's an opportunity to learn about how architectural management takes place in other jurisdictions, in other countries, in other parts of the African diaspora and beyond. We also have a developing connection with the University of Westminster, who offer postgraduate diploma in architecture. We're hoping to do some crossover sessions with them. So it's an opportunity to kind of engage and develop your understanding of management in architecture through a structured form of learning that has the flexibility to allow you to pursue that online, to pursue that remotely in a way that maybe allows more flexibility and allows you to work whilst you're doing it, but that offers a kind of clear, structured way of learning and advancing your education in architecture. We have an GSA Academic Administration Manager, Adeshnee Reddy, and if you have any questions about applying for this after this session, or any questions about the program, or you would like further engagement on it, you can email her and reach out to her, and she will respond to you and provide any information that you might require about the postgraduate diploma. So I'm gonna end there, and I'm going to invite any questions that you might have about the program, any thoughts you might have, and please don't be bashful. This is a good opportunity for you to express your interest, share with us your thoughts on what you've seen, and if you're interested in doing it, if you have any questions, please don't be bashful. Just put up your hand and take the mic, or if you'd prefer to write your questions in the chat, I'll be able to see them here, and I'd be happy to respond to you. So please go ahead and ask any questions. This is the opportunity to inquire. You might have questions about the modules, you might have questions about the fees, you might have questions about eligibility for the program. Feel free to ask those questions now.
Mark, I have a question. Okay, maybe like two questions to say. Okay, the first question being with the course that you spoke to us about now.
Yes.
Once you get accepted into it, and you are in it and you complete the course, will the course allow you to go into the honors, like the honors degree program, or will it take you to the master's program once completed?
So in terms of the NQF level, it's the same level as an honors program. The postgraduate diploma is at the same NQF level. So it'll be as if you've completed an honors program. So you will then be able to enter a master's research program. So design, theory and practice. So that's how you can. That's where it will lead you to. But it's equivalent in terms of its level to an honors program.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I have is, this is now regarding my situation.
Sure.
So I completed my degree, my GSA degree of architecture at UJ.
Okay.
A couple years back. So I completed it, but the thing is, like during COVID, it was very hard to find work during the time within the field. And after COVID happened, the field was also now starting to pick up again. So employment wasn't easy to come by.
Sure.
Because I had employment just before COVID, which was like very short. And then after COVID, I got employed by Sage, which has nothing to do with architecture.
Okay.
That's the thing. So my thing is applying for the honors program, whether it's for the architectural diploma management or for the honors degree itself. The requirements is also you should have worked at least 1 full year in the field.
Yes.
And in my case, I haven't worked in the field, but I've been out getting experience, but it's not in the field. So I want to know, would I still be allowed to apply I still have the opportunity to be accepted into the course?
I think we're understanding about what's happened over the last few years. And I think once you can demonstrate commitment and preparedness for the program, we would certainly, take that into consideration. So, the academic requirements are very clear, but in terms of, experience, that's preferable and highly desirable. But I wouldn't say that it's critical. I mean, I think we would probably have a conversation with you about that, have a little interview with you, and then determine whether we think you're prepared for it. But don't let that stop you from applying.
Okay, because I was feeling discouraged after seeing the requirements and everything. I must be honest, but thank you for reassuring me. I will keep it in mind. So when I do apply, should I also just attach my letter of recommendation and proof of work that I did work at the firm before?
Yeah, I think what you should do is direct any questions about applications to Adeshnee Reddy. I think she's going to type her email address in the chat again. I had it in my slide, but she'll put it in the chat so that you can email her directly, and then she should be able to clarify any questions like that and guide you on the full process of application.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for coming and joining us, David. Thanks for your interest. Okay, I've got a couple of questions. Somebody here, Janika. Hi, Janika. You said I did apply online, but it says 1 year full time. Well, it shouldn't say that. We will have a look into that. It is a 2-year part-time distance learning program. So that's an error in our interface. So my apologies for that, but that is not what it is. It is a 2-year part-time program. Do you want to say anything else, Janika? I see your hand is up, so please feel free to voice any other questions you might have.
Yes, good day, Mark. How are you?
Hi there.
Yes. I don't know. I think maybe, as you said earlier, we can ask. I don't know, but can you please have the email for where we need to ask question? But my question, I don't know if you can answer that. It was like, okay, I'm a international student. So basically, I live here in Johannesburg, yes, and I use my visa to study and stuff like that. But then recently, like how do I call them? All my first event hasn't really give the visa to people, and I've seen that for me to apply. Sorry, I do work, but I also need to be registered with a corporate, like something like SACAP and something like that. But I did register with SACAP, but right now they haven't like pulled off on me because they really need my visa. I gave them the receipts of like that I had the visa, but I just haven't had my visa and my passport. They're like, okay, we'll wait until the visa's out for you to continue. So regarding that, what about us who have that issue? Can like I've applied already, but do you think I can still make it to work in the in the management, because I'm really interested in that, and I think I really want to go forward with that, because I believe and I know that usually when you work into practice, there are a lot of stuff like the architecture practice, the project management, the contract, and all those stuff. They don't really teach us. So I think it's really something that I'm interested in that. But because of that, I'm quite doubting if I can study next year, because I'm still waiting for my visa to come out and it's still not out, and I've got my receipt and stuff like that. But SACAP, I even paid, but they just told me that I should wait until it's out for me to be there and for them to give me the letter.
Okay, well, what I can tell you, Janika, is that because this is distance learning, you could also apply as an international student. I'm not familiar with the details of that. I know sometimes the Department of Home Affairs can be quite a complex institution to deal with, and sometimes the regulatory system in South Africa can be a little hard to work around. But I think once you're interested and committed to enrolling in the program, and you have the relevant qualifications that make you eligible wherever you got them. If you got your qualifications from outside of South Africa, your undergraduate degree or your advanced diploma, you would need to submit them to the SAQA, which is the South African Qualification Assessment process. And once you can provide validation that your qualification makes you eligible to study at this level, then we would be able to admit you, as far as I'm aware. Again, what I would suggest you do is send your details to Adeshnee, give her an outline of your situation, and then she will be able to make the relevant inquiries with the faculty or with internationalization and get back to you with a response that would guide you in terms of how you would apply. But from what you've described, and I may be wrong, but what you've described, I don't think there would be anything to prevent you from applying, because, as I said, it's distance learning. Somebody from outside South Africa could apply to do this and do it because it is distance learning. So it would not be a requirement that you are a resident or you have a work visa or whatever kind of type of visa to be in South Africa. But check that with Adeshnee, give her your details, and she will be able to follow up. And I see that she has posted her email address in the chat. So take a note of that and follow up with her. Give her as much information as you can. Describe your situation and ask her if you're eligible, and she should be able to clarify and recognize that and clarify that for you.
Thank you so much.
But we would welcome you on the program, and just make a submission to Adeshnee, and she'll try and establish what you need to do to come onto the course. Okay, so Janika said she had tried to apply, but it was 1 year full time. Jamila Mkansi, she said, I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but how many classes per week approximately, and are they contact classes? No, they're all online. Everything is distance. We might have, as I mentioned, we might have a kind of in-person session for those who can make it sort of during the course of the year, maybe for some group work. But it will not, there will be no requirement for you to be physically in person at the university. It's distance learning. It's designed for people who are working. It is good to meet people, so we will try and make that a possibility for those who can make it, but it is not an obligation or requirement. So it will be once a week. It'll be organized in the modules. You'll have one tutor that will run the module from beginning to end. It will require group work. You'll have to meet online as well in groups to do group projects. You'll need to be preparing case studies. It will be an active and interesting and engaged form and structure for you to work with. As I said, it'll be once a week, and you may be required then to have other sessions if you're working in groups. So that will be up to you how you organize that. Okay, Yolisa saying, how much will the course cost? So we're still finalizing that, Yolisa, but as I said, it's over 2 years. So it is likely to be around 34,000 Rand per year. So in total, the total 2-year program is around 68. And each year it's 34,000 Rand. That's what we're budgeting for at the moment. It's not being cast in stone yet. That will happen at the end of October, but currently that is how we're pitching the fees. And the arrangements for the fees are handled through the faculty and the administration. So you can get determination. I think the initial deposit is 4,000 Rand. You can work with you can work out a payment plan, I believe, with the student body. So there are different terms and ways of paying, but that's the amount that's the cost of the program. Now, we just to also clarify, we did attempt to launch this this year, but there were a number of complexities and problems around that we've now overcome. So we're excited to launch it, and excited to have the first cohort of people run through this program. I think it's going to be an exciting program. The university, just to let you know, has just acquired a new learning management system. It's called Moodle. I don't know, some of you might be familiar. But it's a really good online program, and we rely heavily on software, obviously, in these software learning management system platforms to do the teaching. And Adeshnee has provided in the chat a link for how and where you can apply, the number of the program, and a link to click on. And if you have any problems, just reach out to her.
I just wanted to know if the graduation is like online, or like how does it happen? Is it like an online course?
Well, the graduation, well, the university organizes graduations throughout the year, in-person graduations, and we would certainly be having an in-person graduation for those who are able to make it. It's an important part of the process to celebrate.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
So absolutely, it would be very much part of our process. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us and your interest. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. Oh, Deborah is typing. Hold on, Deborah. We might have. Oh, yes. Thank you, Deborah. Thanks for coming. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. Please apply. And if you have any questions, run them by Adeshnee. If there's anything I can help with, I'll also respond to you. But we're keen to. Oh, there's another hand going up. Yolisa, yeah. What's your question?
Hi, sorry, Mark. I just wanted to find out how many students will the course be taking at a time?
We're hoping to have at least 12 in the first cohort, but we may have up to 18. But I think it's probably, we're hoping for a cohort of 12, but we can take 18. We can take 18 up to 24. But I anticipate it'll be between 12 and 18 students for the first year.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to receiving your applications or your questions. Please feel free to follow up with Adeshnee, and either she or I will get back to you and advise you on next steps or respond to any questions that you might have. Thank you.